Okay, let's start. So we're in the parsha of Yosef. In וישב פרק ל"ט. I wanted to say one thing. The last year was 3 weeks ago. And we discussed in that year and the one prior to that you can trace Yosef's problems with Potiphar to the fact that he had atzlus. Remember that? Atzlus, Marbedvarim, and Arvos. Without going into all of that, I just wanted to show you a pasuk.
It's all the concept of not being wise.
Right, exactly. So I just wanted to show you that we could see that in Mishlei Perek Vov, pasuk Lamed Beis. The pasuk says, "Noyef isha chasar leiv, mashkes nafshay hu yasena." So someone who's noyef and isha is a chasar leiv, and only someone who's destroying his nefesh would do that. Mashkes nafshay. And then in Perek Yud Ches, in Mishlei pasuk Tes, it says, "Gam misrape hu b'melachto achu lebal mashkes." So a mashkes nafshay is a noif isha chasar leiv is mashkes nafshay, and here the pasuk says if someone is misrape b'melachto, he's a brother to the bal mashkes. So the ripoy b'melachto is, which we said in the Yosef story, does work in the bais instead of the sadeh, makes him ultimately run the risk of the ashchasa. Okay. If you wanted to hear it, it was blocking. Okay, let's go into the psukim. Pasuk Yud Gimel. When she saw that Yosef had left his clothing in her hand and ran outside, now she took the initiative to do something, to do what she did. We'll soon see what she did. It's not as simple as we always think it is. So why did she take the initiative? Because she saw that Yosef left his clothing in her hand and ran outside. So why does that mean that she has to do something? So the Ramban explains, because that means something's going to happen. People are going to find out that something happened. Yosef left his clothing here and ran out. Had he taken his clothing and gone, okay, Mela, maybe everyone could pretend nothing happened. The clothing's here, he's ran outside, so everyone's going to find out something was up. She has to get ahead of Yosef and get a story out there, right? Okay, now let's look at what happens. So
She's just a regular spin doctor.
basically, well, we'll see. It might not be the case. She may have. We'll see.
She had another option. She could have hidden it and then.
No, she might not actually have been spinning something. Let's see what she says. It might not be such a spin as we think it is. Okay? So let me just give you a breakdown of what happens in the psukim, just to understand the format over here. It's always good to approach the psukim with a sense of structure. You have pasuk Yud Gimel, right? Vahikir Isa. So now she has to do something. So what does she have to do? So here's what she does. She does two things. Pasuk Yud Dalet and Tezvav talks about what she does, how she talks to Anshe Beisa. And then there's pasuk Tezayin, which breaks up and says, okay, after she finished giving the report to Anshe Beisa, she left the beged there until his master came home. And then pasuk Yud Zayin and Yud Ches, she repeats the same spiel with some changes, obviously, and those are important. You have to notice them and look into them. To the Adain. So that's the structure of the psukim. And then, as we'll see, we'll go through all these psukim tonight, but even in pasuk Yud Tes, where he ultimately takes the initiative to do something, it's even then, there's a whole hakadama until he does anything about it. It's not like she gave him a report and he did something. Okay? So just the structure. So firstly, just to point out on that point, why is it important for the story? Why is it interesting? Why is it meaningful that she first gave the report to Anshe Beisa, then he wasn't around apparently. She had to wait till he came home, right? And then he came home and she gave him the report. Meaning it could have happened, that she called Anshe Beis and the husband at the same time and gave the report. Why is this?
Well, he wasn't home yet.
Right, but no one was home. Right? So Vatikra, she went and called them. But she couldn't even summon him, right? She had to wait for him to come. Apparently he was further away. What?
Either that, or she doesn't have authority or something.
Okay, right. That could also be Vatikra Lanshe Beisa. Those are the ones that you can quote to, right? That could be two. But again, that wouldn't explain though. Like I said, it wouldn't explain why. It's interesting, right? Why is it broken up into? What is the message and the fact that it's broken up into? Right? You understand my question?
Yeah.
Things he doesn't have authority doesn't suffice for that.
Also,
So
how did she call him?
What?
Gone to,
she went out, right? She went out,
Tikra,
right?
She called.
Mhm.
That indicates that she called out
Right,
and summoned them rather than going to find them.
right. And therefore, what?
It
It
seems to be-
could have been him too.
Sorry?
Therefore, what?
No, therefore she said, it means that literally no one around. Remember you pointed out that if you scream...
Yeah. Well, she's saying the same thing.
She said that she screamed and he ran away, but no one heard because
That's
no
interesting.
one was actually there.
That's
There was no
interesting.
there.
That is interesting. Okay, it's a very interesting point you're saying, because I thought I was going to mention Agav, that for the fact that she said I screamed and he ran away, so you see within this story that the idea that we see in the Tamar story and other places that screaming is the right thing to do, because even if there's no one there, screaming will help.
Right.
But you're right, it's actually a Raya Faket, because here she's claiming that she screamed,
And even though
but no one heard it.
no one heard it, and it still worked.
So that's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Because everyone was so far away that they couldn't even hear, and yet he got scared. Okay, it's possible, but why wouldn't anyone hear her screaming? It's a little strange.
Literally no one around. But again,
Still suspicious.
Ran away because he thought
Yeah, it's a little suspicious. A little suspicious, especially goes the other way. Given that we see in the other stories that screaming is the right thing to do, even if no one's there, like we showed. So then, the fact that she claimed to have screamed and no one heard is suspicious.
So her story is suspicious.
Story is suspicious, right? That's true. That's fine. Right? That makes sense. But it comes out that story is suspicious. Right. There's nothing wrong with saying a story is suspicious. Correct. Okay. So I want to show you something. So what were we saying that? That it's important to the story. Apparently, it's important that the Anshe Bayis are down the block, available to be called, and then the husband has to get home. So where do we see this in Mishlei Perek Zayin? Mishlei Perek Zayin is the pitoi of the Isha Zara, the Nachriya, right? Who we've been talking about has to do with Yosef, and I don't know if I mentioned this, the Medrash in the beginning of this Perek in Bereshis, Perek Lamates, the Medrash uses that Perek as a psicha to Yosef, and exactly as we said, let's say the pasuk Zion there where it says Ve'er b'psom avidim b'bonim na'ar chasar lev, it says Yosef is the na'ar chasar lev among the bonim is referring to the other shvatim, and she tries to entrap him. It's near him, right? And it talks about that she grabs him in that pasuk, and the Medrash says, like it says now Parsha, that's Vates B'seir B'vigdoi. But there it says the following in pasuk Yud Tes. She tells him, Ki ein ha'ish beveisai, holach b'derech l'meirachik. She said, the husband's not home, the man's not home, he's far away. He took money with him, he has a lot of business to take care of. He's not coming home until the designated day. Don't worry, he's not coming home. He's not coming for a while, he's far away, he has a lot to do. Right? So by the way, Agav, the Yom HaKesef, I remember I mentioned this a few weeks ago, there's only other place in Tanakh we have the word Kesef. I mean, designated time is in reference to Yosef. Right? Okay, so we'll talk about that. I'm not sure what the connection is, but we'll talk about that further today. That basically the pitui of the Isha is that the man is rachoik. So similarly, we see that in this story that no one's home, but that's not enough. The Ish is not only not home, he's rachoik, and that's why even when she's vatikra anshe beisa, the Ish is not there, because that's why that's why it was possible to be for mivate him. Okay.
She was trying this every day.
What?
She tried this every day. This was just a particular time when no one was there, and so she tried extra hard.
Yeah.
And
Well,
somehow.
Right. That's true. That's interesting. But I would say, and this gets to the next point I'm going to make soon. We'll get to this a little more.
In bodily, which is another case, she didn't dare do it because she could have caught.
Okay, no, that's right. That could be taka, right? But the fact is, and this brings us to the next point, that the Eina Ish B'Beis Halach B'Derech Meirachik in this story may not have been a one-time occurrence, because remember, he left his house beyond Yosef. He had nothing to do there. He could go do everything. He can go on to greater and more interesting things because he has Yosef taking care of us. We'll talk about that soon. That's a different point.
Executing people.
Maybe. Okay. So, okay, fine. So that's one point. Now, let's look at the next. Let's look at this pasuk closely. Vatikra la'anshe beisa. So that's anshe beisa that follows pasuk Yud Aleph, where it says, "Ein ish me anshe abayis sham babal." Yes. And look what she says to them, and this is really where it's something very interesting. What does she say to her family, to the household members? What? No, I correct that. Household members. I changed that. Members of the household. Hevi lanu ish ivri l'tzachik banu. All she has to say is something negative about her husband. Look, he brought, without naming who he is. Why? The Ramban says because everyone knows who he's talking about. Fine, she's talking about, so you don't have to name it. Okay. Look, she says, I realize something. He brought over here to us an ish ivri l'tzachik banu. Now, l'tzachik banu, says the Ralbag, means tashmish, like vayar vayashkef avimelech barach alon vayar es yitzchak b'tzachik tzvivke ishtay. So what she's saying is, here's what she's saying. Let's take her words at face value. She's saying, you know what's going on over here? He, my husband, introduced to this household an ish ivri l'tzachik banu. And how do I know this? Because boy elai lishkavi me. Now, I didn't let him. But what she's claiming is not that I have a taina against this Eved. She didn't have a taina against Yosef. She said my husband brought an ish ivri l'tzachik banu.
Just said banu. She didn't say people.
Now she said banu here when she's talking to the Anshe Besa, and notice when one of the changes that she said to her husband in Pasuk Yud Zayin is Hivesa lonu, but l'tzachik bi. We'll get to that. We'll get to that soon. I don't have an explanation for that, but let's talk about that. So now, first of all, where does this idea come from? Why would she? What type of charge is this that he brought an ish ivri l'tzachik banu? Well, actually, he brought in this ish ivri. He abandoned v'yatzav kol asher lo biyad Yosef. Maybe even the Isha, because all he left out was the Lechem. Yeah, Isha, not Isha. Does that mean the Isha does not? Not so clear, right? But what is he doing? What type of business is this?
Leaves him in charge.
Leave him in charge of the house. You have a time. You have a day. He leaves, and you can even have a day where Einish Anshe Abayis Shom Babayis, and yet Yosef is still draying around, which is obviously a bad idea. It's going to be his wife home, and Yosef's home alone with her. Clearly, says the Eishes Potiphar, he had this agenda.
Why?
Oh, why? So now, first of all, it's a very weird agenda. But first of all,
note that my question might be anachronistic.
Okay, that could be. Right, that could be. It's true. Now, first of all, let's talk about this. Let's talk about l'tzachik banu. Oh, the Anshe Besa also. Okay, so first of all, are Anshe Besa males or females? Well, they could be females, even though it says Anshe Besa. I'll tell you why. Right. Oh. But it says in the prior pasuk, "Me'inish manshi habayis," right? And there, Rav Ben Aram makes the point. Me'inish anshi habayis says, even though it says anshe, he says it means males and females because the point is no one was home. So anshe habayis means members of the household. So maybe he's saying females, but it could be males too because Chazal say that Potiphar bought Yosef to Mishamish Potiphar, and then he became Potiphar because Gabriel was Masaris him. So the whole thing was he wanted this guy.
Is that what it means?
Why not? Why not?
Meaning not them, not the other Anshe Bayis, but himself and her?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That's interesting. Wow, I don't think so. I think no, I don't think so. Wow.
Probably not, but it could be real.
Wow. Right, I don't think so. That's interesting. Okay, very interesting. Fine. So now basically it's like this. Again, she's not claiming, this is not a rape claim. This is, I just realized something which I didn't know until now, which is that my husband has this agenda. And how do I know this? Because Yosef was acting on it. It must be, why was Yosef acting on it? She says, because she's claiming this. Now she knows a little more than she's letting on, but what she is saying, well, no, we'll see. It might not be all false, okay? What she is claiming is that my husband had this agenda, which at least is not completely groundless idea, because he left his whole house, including maybe his wife, at least b'metzias, maybe even giving him the authority over the wife, right? And he left Yosef in charge.
And it seems like he regularly went away.
He went away. He's not bebesa, like we were saying before. He's rachik. Even when the Anshe Bayis back, he still has to get back home. He's who knows where. Vayatzav kol asher lo biyad Yosef, right?
She's coming to him every day. You pointed out she's coming to him every day because
right. He's never home. He goes away for months at a time. He's never home, right? Because he left his whole house. And she says, "What's he thinking? Leaving his whole house and bringing in this handsome young Eved Ivri, this ish Ivri? Oh, he had an agenda. This Ivri is supposed to be Metzachik Banu. Why? Like you said, I don't know. Maybe it's because Potiphar is a Swiss. and he wants to cover up, and he wants his wife to be happy. I have no idea. Maybe it's anachronistic. Maybe he just likes the idea of the nus shabai, the zimo shabai. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe he wants to. Maybe he doesn't have an area. He wants one.
Right, that could be, which is interesting because she was doing the same thing. She knew that she's supposed to have children from Yosef, right, or descendants from Yosef. Right, that's Chazal say though.
Yes,
yeah.
she was trying to do right.
Where there was
Either
asnas.
way, maybe they both. Maybe there's no cheshbon, but maybe that's the cheshbon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Maybe he also had the same cheshbon. Yeah. Then we need Yosef here. To for him to have
She's
an heir.
But she's presenting this as a bad thing.
No, she's just saying. Well, let's see. She's complaining about her husband.
Right.
All she's complaining about one thing is her husband.
I'm not arguing that point. She's
Right.
not complaining about it.
But that's all she's complaining about.
Thing to do.
Well, because she's also claiming that she resisted, right? Because she's saying, "Hey,
She's saying it was wrong, and
yeah." I guess because I didn't understand this, or I didn't like, or I don't accept this, or something like that, right? She's making herself to be the good person, right? Okay, so we're going to go back to this point. It's a very important idea that the reading of the story is she's not lodging a claim against Yosef at all. She's lodging a claim against her husband that he brought this issue. It's amazing. Before we get back to this, I want to just make a couple of points on.
And then that will raise a question: why does Potiphar act? Is it because?
Well, let's see, because
of what he thinks happened, or because he thinks
let's see.
He's going to be blamed for it.
Let's see what the pasuk says, and now you understand. Now we'll get to the pasuk test. We'll see where the pasuk makes a whole big deal about why Potiphar reacted. It doesn't just say Potiphar heard the claim and said, "Well, then Yosef's going to jail." That's not what happened.
Right.
Dafka, not what happened. It was a whole arichos. We'll see when we'll read pasuk test. But before that, I want to just make a side to Gehara on this pasuk tezvav, this lashon vayhi hari moisi koli va'ekra, right? So she says, that's in pasuk tezvav. In pasuk yadal, she says va'ekra b'kol gadol, and in pasuk tezvav, she says hari moisi koli va'ekra. Okay, so I want to show you just in Mishlei, where it talks about the Ishas Ksilos, that's in fact Tes in Mishlei. That's where Tes ends with the Isha's Pitui of Lechem Amayim Geduv Mimtaku, right? Or Lechem Stam Yinam, which we spoke about. That's the end of Tes in Mishlei. She calls to the Pesi and she calls to the Chasar Lev. Right? We spoke of that picks up that Pesi Chasar Lev thing. And what does she say? Look in Pasuk Yudalid, the Ishas Ksilos in Pasuk Yud Gimel. The Ishas Ksilos says, she's Yashva LePesach Beisa Al Kisei Meroimei Kores Likrei LeOverderch Miyashim Archoisam, and she's calling to the Pesi, right? So she's in a high place, Al Kisei Meroimei Kores, and she calls out to the Pesi and to the Chazal Lev, and she says, "Ma'im Gedim Takus." I think Mishlei is playing a game on the Ish Potiphar. She claimed that Hari Moisi Koili Ve'ekar B'Kol Gadol to resist the Znus, but we know that she was actually Al Meroimei Kores, being Koirei to the Pesi and the Chazal Lev. Right, so the Meroime is connected Harimoisi, Kaili Va'ekra, Ekra, and Kores, and there also it says Likroi La'ivre Darech, the Pesi and the Chasale. So it's playing games with it's like it's making fun of Eish Potiphar, as it were. And also, if you look in Mishlei, as we spoke about this, that there's a competition in Mishlei between the Isha and Chachma, and Chachma is supposed to protect from the youth from the Isha Zar, right? So if you look in Perek Ches, Pasuk Aleph and Beis in Mishlei, Chachma calls out, and Chachma is Bereish Meraimim, and the Yad Sharm Lefi Kores. Okay? So the Isha is Meraimei Kores, and she calls out. Chachma is Meraimim, and Lefi Kores, and calls out to compete. And also in Perek Tes.
It's also Koil.
Right, the Koil. Right, it's a Koili. Right, very good. And Chachma is competing with that. And the same thing you have in Perek Tes Pasuk Gimel, Shachlo Nariseh Tikra Agape Murei Mekaris Mi Pesi Yosef Chasal Lev Malay. So the Chacham is competing with the Isha by calling from high places to the Pesi and the Chasal Lev and telling him Luchu Lachem Lachmi, right? The Lachem of Chachma. Okay, another Lachem there. Agav. Which Lachem is good? Which Lachem is bad? Okay, which is maybe irrelevant actually. We'll see. But the point is, just the Yanenu is that this lashon of Harimosi Koili Ve'ekra is picked up in Mishlei, say about the Isha Zara, and say about the Chachma that's going to protect from the Isha Zara.
No,
okay.
Both of them have lechem, they don't both have yain. Chachma has yain, they don't have.
Who doesn't have yain? The Isha? She says lechem and mayim. Interesting. Okay, interesting. See if that's true.
Right, etc.
Yeah, I see. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Why doesn't she offer yayin? You think she'd offer you wine, right?
Well, the wise one offers wine and the foolish one offers whatever.
Very interesting. Okay, another thing. So this is what we're talking about before. That I want to point out that she says she raised her voice, which proves the idea that that's what you're supposed to do, even if there's no one around. And yet, as we were discussing earlier, on the other hand, sort of makes her very suspicious because Malcolm don't hurt. Okay. Now, pasuk tazayin v'tanach bigdoi etzla ad boy adonov el beisoy. Ad boy. Now, it's interesting to me is that we have this expression in the Yosef story in Tehillim Kuf Hey, where it says ad eis boy divaroi imras Hashem tzrafasu. Right? The dover hadn't come yet, so he had to be refined. Ad eis boy divaroi. So there's a certain time that the dover has to come to fruition. Until that time, Yosef is dabbling in roiv dvarim, as we discussed, and therefore he hasn't yet reached his dover. Right? It's not the time yet for his dover. So it's interesting to me. It was notable that here we have ad boy adonov and this ad eis boy dvarai. Okay, in and of itself, I don't know, but the fact is that we have, as we mentioned earlier, the other thing about being a set time, the keseh, which means a designated time. The two places that we have the word keseh is in Mishlei that the man's going to come home the yom hakeseh, and Yosef gets out of jail on the designated time. The keseh the yom chagenu, which is Rosh Hashanah, Chazal say Rosh Hashanah Yetzi Yosef Beis Asurim. So there's a designated time. Yosef has to wait for the designated time, the Eis B'y Dvarei, which is not the Eis of B'y Adonav al Beizai. So it's like here's where it splits, right? Okay, the husband's going to come on the Yom HaKeseh, and Yosef is not going to get the davar because look how things are going to play out. It's not going to be good. I still don't understand it fully, but I see that they seem to be playing against each other. Okay, now let's go to pasuk Yud Zayin. Rashi on this pasuk, you could take the Chumash with Rashi if you want. I do not understand. You know what? If you don't mind passing me one of them, I managed do not understand Rashi over here, and all the Mefarshim explain Rashi as if it's very simple. It's not simple at all. The pasuk goes like this. First, let's read the pasuk inside. I'll tell you how I would read the pasuk. Okay. Pasuk Yud Zayin. Vatadaber elov kadvarim ha'ela leimar. She told him like the similar statement. It's similar because there's some differences. We're not going to go into the differences tonight. We noticed a few of them, but we're not going to go into that. But what she say? She said, "Ba elai ha'ever ha'ivri asher hevesa lanu l'tzachik bi." So here's how I would translate the pasuk. The eved ivri that you brought to us in order to be mitzachik bi came. He came to me, and I didn't like that, so I raised my voice. Why would I read the pasuk that way? Because that's what she said in pasuk Yudalid. She said that he brought the Eish Ivri L'Tzachik Banu. She said that her husband brought an Eish Ivri L'Tzachik Banu. That's what she said.
Is she willing to accuse him directly?
So she said, look, that guy, that everybody that you brought L'Tzachik Bi, Taka came. And how do I know it's L'Tzachik Bi? Because he came. How do I know you brought L'Tzachik Bi? Because he came. Now I understand your whole game. The everybody that you brought into our household, in order for him to be tzachik bi, Taka was boilai, and vayikrim mikay lebeka. And this way, pasuk Yud Zayin is consistent with pasuk Yud Dalid. In this point, now Rashi says, look at Rashi in pasuk Yud Zayin. Rashi says, boilai letzachik bi ha'eved v'yasher v'esa lanu. That means Rashi is reading the pasuk like this. The Eved that you brought to us came to me litzachik. What?
With the pause that was in the drop.
I'm not sure about that drop, whether it proves it.
What?
I don't know. I'm not sure if that's right.
It's a pause, not a very strong pause.
I don't know, right? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So he reads,
Right.
You're reading it,
right, the question is where to put that in the clause. In other words, in English, I would say it's like this. The Eved that you brought to us litzachik bi came to me. According to Rashi, the Eved that you brought to us came to me litzachik bi. That's what Rashi says it. Now, everyone says because everyone, meaning the Goraya, the Mizrahi, whatever the Mepharshim and Rashi say, oh yeah, because he didn't bring the Eved Tzachik. But the pasuk says, I don't know what they're talking about. The pasuk says in pasuk Yudalid that he did bring Eved Tzachik. But you want to say she wouldn't say it to husband? Okay, it's Shtuch Torah. But I don't know, and I don't know what's Machriach Rashi to say that. Mam Shapella. I don't know why he says that. I don't know why he says that. And everyone will Mepharshim like make it like a Zapashit. I have to look a little more. I guess it's on Mepharshim Rashi. I haven't seen anything. But here like this. No, I don't know Pshat. I want to read this pasuk not like Rashi. I don't know Pshat and Rashi. She's telling him like this: the Eved Yosef Tzachik be boilai, and Bahika my kali. Now, I just want to point out the difference is, without explaining why. She told the Anshe Beisa, she told him boilai leshkavi mi, ve'eka b'kol gadol. Here she told her husband boilai, okay, which could mean was boiler lishkav, and maybe I stopped him. Boilai sounds like he did it, maybe. They both talk. He was boilai, but I don't like it. Are you going? Right.
Why did you wait until he was finished?
Yeah, right. It's weird. It's something strange, right? We have to explain that. It's true. Now, according to Rashi, it's not a kasha, right? Because according to Rashi, the tzachikbi means he was boilai at tzachikbi. Well, he started playing, whatever, nothing, but it doesn't mean anything happened. He was boilai with an intention at tzachikbi, right? With an intention, right? But if you don't read it, maybe that's what Rashi's issue was. Maybe that's what was bothering Rashi. Because if you read the pasuk the way I am, the Eved Yosef Tzachikbi was boilai. Oh, okay. Which, by the way, Taka the Ramban asked that later. She tells in pasuk Yotesh, she tells her husband Kadvar Ma'il Ashaz the Avdecha, and Rashi says b'shas tashmish amal kain, so that means mashmash he was saying that the Eved was boiler. No, the Ramban is the kasha, but he wasn't. What's going on? But mashma that he was. That her story was that he was at least maybe. Enka Mekayim. We have to. I mean, Enka Mekayim is next. I guess next year at Elul.
Why did you wait?
Right, it's a good question. It's a good question. Very strange. Right.
Because I understand you saying that he was already not wearing it.
Right. But there's a couple of differences, right? Another difference, by the way, in the pasuk here, where she talks to her husband, is that she calls him an eved. Okay. And earlier she called him an ish. Now that I think works out very well, because pasuk Dazayin says she put down the clothing adbay adoinov el beisai, and she says to him again in pasuk Yotes katorme la asli avdecha. Because what's happening is, basically, as we're going to see in pasuk Yotes very clearly, that her argument to her husband is, why are you letting your eved be the adain? That was the whole time. Basically, and let's look at pasuk Yotes. Okay, so again, it does not say after she made this terrible claim against Yosef, the master decided the fitting punishment would be to put him in jail. It's not what it says. In fact, he did nothing. But then, Adoinov, as divrei Ishtay, who was saying, you're
assuming this is a later time.
Well, no, even if it's not, which Rashi says it is, right? Rashi says, B'shas tashmish amakin. That means, he told her, I don't know, I hear it, whatever, we're not doing anything about it, right?
Yeah.
But then later she came and says, even if it's not a later time, it's introducing something more to the story. What is necessary for the story? What is the problem with saying she brought a charge against Yosef and he was punished? No, that's not what happened. I'm not talking about in time. That wasn't the secret. That wasn't the cause and effect. The cause and effect was he heard words. He heard very specific words that made him angry, and the words that made him angry were "Kadvar me'el asli avdecha." There's a matter of pride, a matter of anger here. Something upset him. And what upset him was that she was saying, your Eved did to me what you, the Adin, should be doing. And that's why this stresses the Eved.
Basically, he did the same thing
that you should do. He usurped you. Yeah. And the Vayicha Apay. He got angry at this claim. So that was the whole claim. And she believed this. Or, again, she claimed to believe this. And we'll see maybe actually true. She claimed to believe that he actually allowed Yosef to replace his place in the house, including over her. And that she was telling him, look, this is what your Eved was doing. He thinks he's the master. And that's what got him upset. Okay? Why did it get him upset?
Why would he not be upset at her? Because she said, obviously, you intended this. Because otherwise you would never dare.
Well, not upset at her for what? For relenting? Well, she didn't. She didn't. I don't know the answer about that. Yeah, I know. We have to get back to that. To the Anshe Beisa, she said not. To him, she said maybe yeah. And according to Pasuk Tes, it sounds like she actually did.
It's
right.
Fine. It's fine if she told the household one thing and her mother the other.
We have to know why. We have to figure out why.
Well, there are a number of reasons that can explain it easily. If she wants to say to her husband, you intend him to do this, and so he managed to do this,
right.
He usurped you, and she wants him to get angry.
Right.
She can say that without diminishing herself.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't say that to
the slaves. That could be. So that could be. She wants to say it to her husband to get him angry, but she'd rather not say that to everyone else.
She can't say that to anyone else.
She doesn't want him. Right. That's interesting. Interesting. So she's saying one thing to her husband in order to get him upset and get Yosef out of the way. Antik Mechazik died this story.
It won't hurt her in the end. It will hurt her to say to anyone else.
Interesting. Okay. It's good. Okay, we have to get back to that. But again, according to the Medrash that it was B'shas Tashmish, that's the mamish the point. The point that she was saying that, look, he replaced you. And that's why it says, Chara'apa, as we said, he didn't punish Yosef because of the claim against Yosef. He got upset. He got upset about this idea that Yosef replaced him legamri. Right? It's the idea of it that it's not that Yosef was. You understand my point? I see even this pasuk.
But that he replaced him.
Yeah, that's the only thing that upset him. It's not that he said Yosef did a terrible thing and he deserves to be put away. That's not what happened.
He doesn't care about that.
It's not about justice. It's about he got angry. He got angry that Yosef was replacing him, supposedly replaced him, in this way, right?
Well, this is the way that matters. This is the
I understand, but
the ultimate thing.
Right, but the point is the pasuk makes that stress about that he's replacing him. It's not just that Yosef did something wrong. I mean, Niyaf is wrong. If Niyaf is wrong, get him out of the way. No, and he's the master. Because she said it, right?
Even if he did it, he wouldn't care.
So here's the question. Now here's the question. Does he really care? Did he actually mean this? Did he? Forget about the fact that she made it up, didn't make it up, whatever. Did he actually mean this? Did he actually mean to bring in the Eved to rule over the wife too?
Did he deny it?
No.
If she's saying...
Actually not. That's true. He didn't deny it, right?
If she's saying, as you said, he
didn't say, what are you talking about, Tzachik? He was just here to work. He didn't say that, right?
He came and I cried out and she left. And he doesn't object. He doesn't say anything about it. He doesn't react. He seems not to react. Right about the reading.
Right. Then he's accepted.
And maybe
he's my deter.
Well,
that at least it could be.
Whether he at least doesn't care, and he possibly did intend it.
Right. I think he intended it. I'll get to. Let's figure this out in a second.
He gets upset because you said, he's just as good as you.
Something like that. Right. But he actually intended.
He's the same as you.
Right. It's a power thing. I don't need you at all. Right. Now let's. Right.
By the way, it's a problem if you say he's a sorry. How did he do anything?
Right. By the way, I just want to say one point. The Ramban says not mamish. He doesn't go all the way with this. Ramban just says that she's blaming her husband. Oh, you're bringing this guy to the house. Of course, this is going to happen.
Who says this?
Ramban.
Yeah.
But not that it was mamish intentional. Ramban doesn't go so far that Taka, she's claiming that she brought him the Tzachik. In order Tzachik, which to me is what the pasuk is saying. But Ramban says the idea that you brought in this Eved and you're treating him so well, and of course he's going to take advantage like that.
So
and Ramban
brought him the Tzachik. It means you allowed
something.
You allowed to
get to that, right? Not that was the objective. Now the Ramban tells to a pasuk, which is amazing. I would have told to the pasuk anyways, because it's exactly where it should be in Mishlei Perek Chav Tes pasuk Chav Aleph. I think we even mentioned this pasuk once in this context. But Mishlei Perek Chav Tes, which we've all along has been referring to this parasha. And there it says, Pasuk Chav Mefanek minoi ar avdoi v'charisa yiyeh monoin. Which according to Rashi, monoin means rule. Like, lifnei shemesh yinoin shemoy. Okay? So if one is mefanek his eved, mefanek, tavlukim, right? And spoils his eved from his youth. So Yosef is the nar, right? And he's an eved who's being spoiled because he's mara. And then eventually he's going to end up ruling over you. And then the next pasuk talks about af and chema. Ish af yigaramonu bal chema raf pasha. So he gets angry, and because he gets angry, he does a great pesha. He puts Yosef in jail, which is really not fair. Yosef doesn't deserve it. Yosef Mamish doesn't deserve it because Yosef didn't anything with Chaladeus. Unless he thinks whatever. Unless a whole shtickle Torah. Unless the only tzad say Yosef does something wrong is if he does not accept his wife's. If he did not intend for Yosef to control the Isha. She thinks that her husband's to blame, right? Because he brought in this Eved the Tzachik. He never intended to bring the Eved the Tzachik, and therefore he could blame Yosef. That would be the only tzad. But that's not what the pasuk says. The pasuk says, like you said, it's mashman is murdered to her, The only issue is he gets upset that she's saying this. And so he gets upset and he does a pesha. And that's the pasuk says in Mishlei, the next pasuk over there. Oh, yeah, chema, you're going to end up doing pesha. Right? Okay.
Interestingly, by the way, how would you read Rashi? Rashi said that she came
Lutzach. Right, came Lutzach.
Like cried out
right,
ran away.
Right.
And then he says later, oh, he did this.
Right, stam to steer. Right.
And the argument that can only be that she told him it didn't happen, but he tried to.
Uh-huh.
He said, you know what, he really did it.
And that's when he got angry. You mean maybe we should change the story? Okay, that's interesting. Interesting. Okay. There might be other terutzim for that. Okay, so now here's the question. Did he in fact bring in Yosef L'tzachik and the wife? Did he? So well, you say, well, no, he gave him the whole household. Kiyam halechem.
What is lechem?
What's lechem? So this, right. So this whole confusion about whether when he excluded his power from the lechem, does that mean he excluded him from the isha? Actually, is exactly what's in question right here. Because she's saying you put him in charge of the house, including you put him in charge of me. Well, but what do you mean? I told him he can't eat the lechem. But does lechem mean isha? Does lechem not mean isha? So I want to say a shtickle Torah. There's a whole argument there, but I want to say a shtickle Torah. Lechem, of course, means bread, right? But lechem seems to stand in for the isha. Shown in Mishlei and Rashi, right? Possibly. Why was lechem standing? If you remember, I said why would lechem stand in for the isha? Because there's another captive that doesn't eat lechem, and that's Daniel, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't want to eat the pas akum. Why? Goes alpita mishum b'nei seim. The ultimate problem is b'nei seim. So therefore, if Yosef didn't eat the lechem of Mitzrayim, because Yosef said, I'm not going to eat the lechem of Mitzrayim. Why am I not going to eat the lechem of Mitzrayim? Because then I might chas v'sholem get to the isha Mitzrayim. So if Yosef is not eating the lechem of Mitzrayim because Yosef has a chomer not to eat pas akum, so I'm not taking lechem. I'm not taking isha. That's not what my problem. I'm just going to work here. But if it's according to the other Mefarshim that he's not eating lechem because Tevas Mitzrayim, lo yuchlon ha'ivrim lamitzum lechem ivrim lechem ki Tevas Mitzrayim, right? K'te'eva hu Mitzrayim. Also, it's a
shot, by the way, because
right.
I'm sure said, I'm not allowing you lechem.
Right. Asher hu eichel. Right. You can't eat my lechem. Right. He's chosach the lechem. Right. Okay, that's a special thing about lechem, but he actually gave him the isha. So when Yosef says lechazach menim ye'uma kiyam Yosef asher atisha, that's because Yosef wasn't eating the lechem. That's pasakum. Kosh again the isha. Masha enkein if you're only chayzich lechem because you don't want to let him eat the bitzi lechem. So it means he gave him the isha. He taka gave him the isha.
Again, read it. Yosef doesn't say I have deprived myself of you. He's saying he gave me everything except
for you, right?
Which means he said not lechem, and maybe he meant because time global inside.
Right.
And Yosef, and maybe he didn't mean, and maybe he meant more. Yosef maybe interprets it. Oh, you're not letting me have lechem
because you want me to retain my kedusha, because that's what makes me special.
Right.
And therefore you want me to stay away from the wife also. Right, exactly. So there's room for both interpretations. And it seems that she is arguing, like I said, not baselessly, that you brought in this guy to be mitzachik in me, to be mitzachik in all of us, and like you mitzachik in you and all the whole family, and you go away, and what are you thinking? And this is obviously your plan. And he does not even deny it. And it's suggesting that it actually is the case, that was his intention. Except that when she says, he gets upset, he says, that's it, I'm done with this, I can't take this anymore.
Again, is it because he did it, or because Kadvar Ma'ela?
What do you mean? I don't know, right, so we have to figure what exactly got him upset. If he talked about him for that reason, why did he get upset? And also...
Unless it's Kadvar Ma'ela, and now he said, look, if he wanted something, he wanted him not to replace. Right?
Okay, but yet he left the house, he ran away, he was never there. He's absentee.
There's a difference between when you do a thing as a service and you do a thing...
Okay, but if a Yazav Kosher biyad Yosef, right?
Sure, but that means not for his benefit, but only for mine.
And then you're saying maybe that was wrong?
That was wrong.
Maybe that wasn't true?
Maybe not. How do we see it? Because he doesn't like something. He objects to something. And
right.
Then he shows Yosef, you are my slave.
So you're saying when Yosef said he's not greater than me, this is actually proving, no, actually I'm greater than you, because I'll put you in jail.
Right.
Okay. So you're saying maybe that's... Right. That's the idea. He has to assert again that he's the Adon, that's why he keeps on saying, the Adonov came home, and Adonov, and Avdecha, right. He has to assert his mastery again, correct.
The rest of the household, she doesn't say he's
correct, so maybe that's a Vayichrapa.
Right. The fact that he's not important to them.
Right.
With regard to them,
Right.
it's not an evidence.
Exactly. It's not the point. The point is there's a guy over here that has a job that, and look, my husband did. He brought in this guy for this job, and how horrible that is. Right. For her husband, what she's arguing is, how come you're letting him to be usurp you? You should be the Ad and he should be the Eved. And that spoke to him and got him. That's what ultimately got him upset. Right. That's what it seems. Okay. We're still working at some details here. I want to just bring you two psukim that bear on this parsha. One is, and they are right where they should be. One is in Mishlei Perek Yud. So we spoke about Mishlei Perek Yud pasuk Yud Ches. The Motzi Diba is Exil. Pasuk Yud Tes is Roiv Dorm Leichtel Pesha. Right, and then there's a bunch of psukim about how the Chacham speaks as opposed to how the Exil speaks, and the Vilhas Chasar Lev, and the Birchs Hashem, and then Pasuk Chav Gimel says Kichseik L'Chsil Aseis Zima V'Chachma Leish Tuna. The Exil, it's like a joke to do Zima. So basically, the Tzchaik and Tzchaik are the same word. We have by Shimshin, it's mamish the same word. It says. Right, Shimshin Tzachik by Tzachik. So it's maybe there's some differences, shades of different meaning, but we could obviously interchangeable. So the Chesel Chesel Achsei Zima, meaning the Chesel, for them Zima is a tzchaik, it's a joke, and therefore it could easily happen, and therefore Yosef was at risk from the Eishus Kesilus. Right? Make sense? Okay. And one more thing, and this is also to me is amazing. Look at Kehelas, Perek Yud. Which I don't know what the point is of this pasuk, but I see that it's doing something with our passion. In Kehelas Perek Yud, we spoke about pasuk Yud Aleph and on. I'll review briefly what we had over there. The Bal Haloshin, there's no point in words, and the Ksil makes problems by speaking. Right, that's pasuk Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, and Yud Gimel. Sachal is Mar B'Dvarim, and then he doesn't know the future. Right, Yosef has to learn the future, but when he's Mar B'Dvarim, he doesn't know the future. And he doesn't, because he's Exil, he still doesn't know how to get to his goal. And then Perek Yud pasuk Tesvav, it's bad if the king is a nar. The king has to be free. Yosef has to get out of jail before he become king, and he has to get loy bashasi, not through the Sahar Mashkim. And then pasuk Yud Ches talks about laziness and how it causes the roof to cave in, right? And Gidlif Habayis, a leak in the house, which we spoke about. Mishlei talk about the bad woman is like a leaky house. Yeah. So Yosef's laziness, but okay. Now look at the next pasuk you test. L'schaik oisim lechem, that's what I saw so far in the version. They say, if you want to have a schaik, you want to have a party of schaik, you have to make bread. What the point is, whatever. I'm not sure what that means. Yain yisamachim. You want to have a simcha, you should make yain. You want to have schaik, you should make lechem. But kesef yan hasakol, everything needs money, something like that. But I don't know what the pasuk is, but I see that there's lechem is a very important ingredient for a schaik. So then there can't be schaik, right? So
he didn't give the lechem.
Right, you need lechem for schaik. So I don't know exactly what that means.
If this means that he did not intend him to have lechem or zima,
right?
And he's saying you need lechem, and I'm giving it to you.
No, what again?
Is it plausible interpretation? We said this before. Plausible interpretation that Potiphar intentionally denied lechem to Yosef because he was intending to deny zima also.
Okay, good. Right.
So no lechem, no zima.
Right.
For zima you need
right.
lechem.
Right. But yet there was zima. How'd that happen?
Again, because he violated the rules. He
didn't do the lechem, but he didn't eat the lechem. But he didn't eat the lechem. The Maisi didn't take a lechem.
But she also objected and reported.
She also
objected and reported it.
Right. Reported what?
If he says that you're not allowed to have it, if I had given it to you, then you would have been mefata her properly with lechem, the whole thing, and it would have been a party, and I would never have heard anything about it.
Right.
She wouldn't have cried out. She wouldn't have complained, objected, nothing.
No, so you're saying lechem is a necessary ingredient for schaik. So by Potiphar denying the lechem, the Chari is protecting from schaik. So how did the schaik happen?
It's a necessary ingredient for zima, for pitoy, not for.
Well, the schaik is some lechem. Don't do with pitoy. Why is it going to pitoy? Because she said lechem stam ninam. That's something else. Here it seems to be a schaik. For schaik you need lechem, right? Vayesh. What does it say? The vayechlo vayesh to vaykum lo tzachik. right? That's that
Is it
idea.
possible without?
No, but I'm trying to figure out what this. Of course not. But I'm trying to figure out what this pasuk is going within the Yosef story. I just don't know what pasuk Yud in Kalas, pasuk Yud Tes in Parak Yud of Kalas. I don't know what it's teaching us. Of course, it's not possible with that, but of course, it's possible with that. That I don't know. But at least look. I don't know. But everything here is to me Yosef, and then pasuk Yud Tes says lechem is how you make schayk. And the Yosef story, there's no lechem, but there is schayk, right? So we got to figure out what that's at.
That come together later.
Where?